Hey, what's up everybody? It's Craw, and in this video, we're going to be beating Terraria with the winner of the last video's poll, Wands only. Now that consists of stuff like the Gem Staves, the Inferno Fork, the Vile Thorn, the Poison Staff, a bunch of crazy stuff. It's honestly a massive category on the wiki, so let's get right into it. First things first, we do what we always do, and that's go caving. This particular cave is dark and dangerous, but I managed to make my way out completely blind because I am quite possibly the greatest Terraria player of all time, as you'll come to see. I head down to the mines, I mine a whole bunch of ore, lead, tungsten, platinum, all in preparation for potential gem staves for our first weapon. I find a life crystal, I find a diamond gem tree, and I find a chest that gives us the lovely magic mirror. Above that, I find a nice little vein of 15 rubies, and I go mine some platinum in preparation for future staves. I go craft a ruby hook at the underground house and take the anvil for myself. After that, I go to start building my house, which is not going great for me. I don't have a weapon, so I just have to tank a bunch of damage. Back down in the mines, I find a trap chest, a whole bunch of life crystals, and a whole bunch of gems. Before I head back up, make a little hut, and I craft our first weapon, the emerald staff. I also go ahead and craft some tool upgrades and a little bit of armor before heading out and giving our emerald staff a little bit of a whirl, which is not great. My aim's not great. I finish up the frame of our house and I head underground to start up a gem tree farm. After that, I go to explore both sides of the world, grabbing a whole bunch of fallen stars along the way. On the left side, we have our dungeon, and on the right side, I find the corruption before quickly getting taken out by an eater of souls. I go back home to finish up the outline of our gigantic house, and as I'm building this spiral staircase, a dastardly blood moon hits us, where, you know, it goes great. I do so well in this blood moon. Very well. Yeah. The next day, I go and make this sick wizard roof. That's the roof of a wizard, alright. I head down to the corruption to start throwing some bombs to get our next weapon upgrade, and luckily, on that third orb, we get the lovely Vile Thorn, as the Eater of Worlds spawns and begins to take us out very quickly. After that, I go ahead and buy a whole bunch of bombs again, and I start making a giant elevator with them. I quickly finish up my house's roof, I go down and mine up some of my gem trees, I expand the farm, and I mine some more gem trees, and I expand the farm, and I mine some more gem trees. Exploring more of the underground, I find a whole bunch of golden chests that give me stuff I already have or don't need before I die to this lovely trap. After some more gem tree mining, I can finally make a diamond staff. I go ahead and make a chest to throw all of our wands, and I pop a gravitation potion to go look for some islands. On the first one, I am very lucky, and I find a shiny red balloon as well as some fledgling wings. On the second one, we get a lucky horseshoe, which I don't particularly need with the wings, but it's nice to have anyway. After that, I head down to the jungle to start getting some materials for our armor sets. These jungle shrine chests aren't super useful because I can't really use anything in them, but I finally get our cloud in the bottle down here as well, which is a great mobility upgrade. After that, I go mine more of my gem trees, where finally I can make our first piece of armor, crafting the robe and then upgrading it to the diamond robe to give us a nice mana buff. Of course, immediately after that, I head to the jungle and find a vein of like 16 diamonds. Of course I did. As I'm heading down to look for more life crystals, a goblin army starts to approach, which I very quickly take out with the Vile Thorn. The Vile Thorn has a lot of knockback and hit multiple enemies at once, so it's not too much of a hassle to deal with, and I get it done very quickly. I start to excavate out a little area to build an arena, and I make a jungle hat to go alongside my robe before heading into the night to fight the Eye of Cthulhu. As always, this fight isn't too bad, but with the kind of necessary aim I need with the staves, it's a little bit harder, so I resort to the Vile Thorn mainly because of its like long-staying ability, but eventually, with a bunch of stray shots and some Vile Thorn blasts, we take out the Eye of Cthulhu, no problem. After the fight, I grab a hunter's potion and I head back down to the mines where I find the last 2 life crystals I need, as well as I'm very lucky to have found the goblin pretty quickly this time, as opposed to normally where it spends like 2 hours looking for it. After finding the goblin, I go ahead and start upgrading a whole bunch of gear, including tiger climbing gears, specter boots, a cloud in a balloon, and then a blue horseshoe balloon. Head back down to the jungle for a few more materials and I can finally make the full jungle set. However, eventually I end up going with 2 pieces of the jungle set and the diamond robes to finish off my pre-hardmode gear. I head over to the corruption, I start bombing out an area to make a nice little arena for the Eater of Worlds fight. I go to blow up the last orb and the Eater of Worlds spawns, where we're off to a good start with the Vile Thorn, and it's just, the Vile Thorn makes this fight pretty easily. This is a little bit of a scary spot right here where I get stuck in between like 3 bodies, but overall we make it out fine, and the Eater of Worlds goes down. Once home, I make a mana regen band, I reforge a whole bunch of our stuff, and I go to make an arena over for Skeletron. After the fight, however, I go and find our Shimmer Pool where I throw in a life crystal to get the Vital Crystal. Once night hits, I go and find the old man and talk to him to try and alleviate his curse, and this fight is a little annoying in this way because it's really hard to hit the hands, and it just took too long, where eventually daytime hits and Skeletron hits me for 800 damage. So the next day I spent a whole bunch of time making this platform super long so I can maybe get a few more extra shots in on his hands. This strategy worked out pretty well. I get his hands down way quicker than before, and now all it is the head and dodging the skulls. Now the head does take a little bit longer. I'm using the diamond staff mainly for the little bit of extra damage, but as long as I'm just dodging these skulls and maneuvering around his dash, we get it done after a long and grueling fight. Down in the dungeon, I'm using the Vilethorn to start taking care of these skeletons. In the first chest, I find a cobalt shield, and very quickly after, I go ahead and find the magic missile. Before continuing in the dungeon, my inventory is full, so I head back to empty it out and reforge our new weapon. After that, I head down to hell with the shadow key and go to open a whole bunch of shadow chests. I find a whole bunch of stuff, but eventually I find the flame lash, which is good enough for me to stop for now and go grind out a whole bunch of Eye of Cthulhu. So enjoy! After the eyes are down, I give the flame lash one good hammer swing, and look at that. Mythical in one. With our newly reforged weapon, I head back down to hell to look for the Flower of Fire, and this was annoying. I opened probably 12 shadow chests, but it's okay, let's move on. Of course, with all those shadow chests, I make a nice little storage room in our house, and then I head back down to face off with the Wall of Flesh. Now, the first fight actually goes pretty decently, and I get him down to about 1500 HP, but eventually he just catches up with me and I took too much damage, and then I die, and then I run out of space and I die, and then I run out of space and I die. And at that point, I was getting a little tilted. While clearing out some of the buildings, a demon dropped a voodoo doll into the lava, and I had to fight the Wall of Flesh again, making it all the way to the other side before he rams me into the side of the world. After that mild annoyance, I ran back to the dungeon to find the last wand that would be the savior of this run, the Aqua Scepter. With a new weapon and some strong buffs, I go down to hell to fight the Wall of Flesh one more time. Now, I don't know who was going to tell me that the Aqua Scepter was the best weapon in Terraria for fighting the Wall of Flesh, but its infinite piercing and decently high damage is insane, and I mean, I take out the Wall of Flesh so quick, and I barely take any damage, and it was so easy. On a different world, I did this in Master Mode, and the Aqua Scepter still melted the Wall of Flesh. It was literally so easy. Aqua Scepter Wall of Flesh, easiest fight you'll ever have. Please use the Aqua Scepter if you're doing a mage playthrough. I head back up to my house, open up that treasure bag, use the Demon Heart, and we got a warrior emblem, but luckily, thanks to Daviangelo Balsanello Martins, for this nice little comment, I learned you can rotate the emblems, which I forgot you could do. So thank you. After that, I head down to the corruption again and pop 6 altars for our nice little hard mode ores. And of course, you know the drill. I mine some cobalt, I make a pickaxe. I mine some orichalcum, I make an anvil and then a pickaxe. I mine a whole bunch of adamantite, and I make a full set of adamantite armor, and of course, the adamantite forge. Over by our desert, I decide to make a little hollowed biome to make it easier to farm pixies for later. And then I head down to the underground hallow to farm souls of light, where a rune wizard shows up and I steal his drip. Absolutely yoink that shit, that's mine. With our pixie dust and our souls of light, I go up to make the much needed meteor staff. And this weapon is nuts, you'll just have to wait and see. But you won't be waiting for very long as I summon the Destroyer and I start spamming the meteor staff towards him, and even on expert mode where the health isn't too crazy, the Destroyer has a lot of health, but the Destroyer is too much for me right now and I end up dead. I go ahead same night, go for an attempt 2, where once again the lasers and probes caught me and I end up dead. After that, I wanted to go grind up some hollowed mimics to get the crystal vial shard, hoping it might make a difference. But as you can see in the next night, I end up completely dropping it a few seconds into the fight for the meteor staff. But unfortunately, the Destroyer does so much damage, and I ran into my house for some reason, who knows. So for the next attempt, I'm getting a little annoyed. I make a cheese box for the Destroyer, and besides the probes attacking me, it goes pretty well up until a rogue wyvern decides to spawn, and I have to run out of my box in the middle of the fight to deal with him and the Destroyer at the same time. I'm lucky I didn't die, but there was a whole bunch of hearts and mana down on the floor, which was great. But the Destroyer gets taken out, and so does that damn wyvern. Next up, I use the cheese box again to take out the Destroyer, and I make a full set of hallowed armor before going down to hell to grind up our next weapon, the Unholy Trident, which I get pretty quickly. The next night, I go and fight the next mechanical boss, which is the Twins, where I try and use the Unholy Trident for a little bit, but I end up thinking it's not super great for this fight, it's too slow, and once again, resort to the Meteor Staff. Focus down Spasmatism, get him down to the second phase pretty quickly, just focus on dodging while the meteors rain down from the heavens, and eventually we take him out, and I focus on Retinizer, where once he hits the second phase, I want the easy win, and I go run into my house for a nice little cheese again. Wands only is a cheesy playthrough, everybody. In the same night, I decided I wanted to take on Skeletron Prime, so I used the Meteor Staff trying to focus down his arms. The fight's going really well until I run out of mana potions, and I quickly run to my house to try and buy more, but Skeletron catches me in there and ends in my death. While waiting for the next night, I decided to go and grind up for the poison staff for later, but down here, spiders hate me, apparently, and it doesn't drop. I even go to look at the bestiary to look at the drop rate, and I just couldn't believe it. So when night hits, I go and fight Skeletron Prime again, fully stocked up on mana potions, and we take him out super easily. Skeletron Prime is probably becoming the easiest boss for me. You know, what's not easy, however, is getting this damn poison staff. I've killed over 200 black recluses trying to grind this thing. Finally, we get it, and I make a whole bunch of queen spider staffs to sell to the merchant for a bunch of gold. Lost footage aside, I upgrade that poison staff to a venom staff, and we head back down to the jungle to fight Plantera. The fight starts off decent. I'm using the venom staff mainly, but then I switch to the meteor staff at some point because, you know, it's the tried and true. Eventually, I'll come to regret that, but we get Plantera down to the second phase before I just get caught up because of how fast she moves and end up dead. I can never beat Plantera. I always gotta wait for a bulb. Luckily, I find a second bulb and take her on again very quickly afterwards, even though I end up dead again. Yay, 900 HP. This whole time, a pirate invasion's been happening, and I've been putting it off because it's annoying, but eventually I decide I should probably deal with it. And then I had the great idea that I should just sleep in a bed while AFKing to eat dinner. But then this happens. Goblins spawned, and then a pirate invasion spawned, and I probably died like 30 times while away from my computer. But I quickly take care of it, and I head back down to the jungle to fight Plantera again. This time I got rid of all the walls, raced up my platform, and mainly used the venom staff. I realized it was probably better the whole time, so we quickly get Plantera down to phase 2, dodge all of her little claws, and luckily, on this attempt, we managed to take out Plantera and we can progress the game. I'm feeling so great about myself that I said I'm gonna fight Golem once again without a platform. We know how well that went last time, but this time, I guess wands are just great, or I'm just way better, or the arena was better, but I take out Golem pretty easily. I switched to the meteor staff for a little bit, using the venom staff for most of the fight, but, you know, it's Golem. It's fucking... I finally had an easy time with Golem, yay me. I don't focus on grinding Golem at all, but I do head to the hard mode dungeon to get our next set of wand upgrades. Very quickly we get a Diabolist who instantly drops an Inferno Fork. That was the first Diabolist I've killed in this entire game. The Necromancers were not as kind. It took me a much longer time to get the Shadow Beam Staff, but believe me, it was worth the grind. I go up to reforge the Shadow Beam Staff to Mythical. I make a set of Bone Wings and a full set of Spectre Armor after some more grinding. After that, I go ahead and set up the Pumpkin Moon, where the Inferno Fork makes quick work with its AoE abilities, and the Shadow Beam Staff does a whole bunch of damage to the Pumpkin, where I very quickly get the Bat Scepter, which is my ultimate weapon for this playthrough. Just wait. With the Pumpkin Moon down, I get a Witch's Broom, and I go ahead and make some Spooky Wings with the twig I have, and finally, we have our in-game setup. I head over to the Lunatic Cultist, and we begin the fight. And for once in my life, I have beaten the easy bosses on the first try. I can't believe it. We take out the Lunatic Cultist, and I start going ham on the Destroyer. I grind a whole bunch of bosses for a whole bunch of money. I go ahead and cheese the Solar Pillar with the Inferno Fork and take him out very quickly. Lost the footage of the Vortex Pillar, but we took him out pretty easily as well. After that, I go ahead and spend some time to make the Moonlord Arena over by the dungeon, expanding our platform and building a small little house for the nurse. We make short work of the Stardust Pillar and even shorter work of the Nebula Pillar as impending doom approaches. The Moonlord fight begins. I main the Bat Scepter for this fight, and I just focus on dodging and healing, where even though I have a bit of like iffy heals, I'm just going to show you the whole fight sped up. Here you go. Bat Scepter's crazy. Finally, with the Bat Scepter aimed and ready, we take out the Moonlord's core, and the credits roll. I've just beaten Terraria with wands only, and I mean, this playthrough was fun. It was powerful near the end. It's definitely a hard playthrough. It's much harder than the other two we did, but definitely worth it. A little grindy, but next playthrough is going to be bows only, so be looking forward to that. Second place winner of the poll, and thank you guys for watching. Love you guys. Bye.